Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today in the Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher. While on a trip to India, Mike Shoreman stood before the Ganges River and awakened his passion of inspiring others on the water. He returned home to become a professional paddleboarding coach, teaching stand-up paddleboarding and running a successful business. His incredible dream of sharing his gift with students had become a reality. And then one day, at the age of 35, his world changed and a sudden neurological condition called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome awakened him to the most excruciating pain. In a very quick 5 days, his life had altered. A medical misdiagnosis, a missed 72-hour window for treatment, caused damage to his fifth, seventh, and eighth cranial nerve. Facial paralysis, extreme vertigo, speech and vision problems, and permanent hearing damage. Mike lost his ability to walk properly. To say he was crushed would be an understatement. Mike believed at that moment that his budding paddleboarding career had come to an abrupt end, and he began to grieve his old life. He was hopeless with all of this news wreaking havoc as it would on anyone's mental state. I know he won't say it was easy, but Shoreman the boardman, as his dad called him, channeled his pain into purpose. Mike used positive thinking to reverse the fall he was taking. He got back up and stepped bravely into his life that looks nothing like the one he had originally planned. He wrote Diaries of the Unbalanced Paddleboarder, Crash and Rise from Victim to Thriving Survivor, to highlight what it truly means to crash and rise again by transcending mental and physical limitations in order to share his light with the world. His story reminds us that it is always darkest just before the dawn. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome Shoreman the boardman, Mike Shoreman, to the Locher Room. Did I get that all right?
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you just intro me every day? Like that's great. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. Your book was incredible and really inspiring. There's so much to talk about, but let's start. What were you like as a child, Mike?
I think I was very adventurous and playful. I'm very curious about the world and just always up to stuff. I was very busy, always very active. My family always, put me in lessons of different kinds, whether it was hockey or karate or swimming, and
Karate was a thing. I had that when I was little too.
yeah. It was interesting. So my parents, separated when I was very young. I don't remember it. But I do remember, the growing up in two households, and they were very different households. So, I was with my mom primarily. And then I'd go to my dad's, once a week and then on weekends. And I had siblings that came along in his household. But in my mom's household, it was just me and her. So I grew up probably faster than most, as single parent
Household,
households do. So on Monday nights, I was watching Melrose Place at an age that I really shouldn't have been watching Melrose Place because I was with my mom.
Me too.
Yeah.
So love Melrose Place.
So good.
So good. So good. June is Pride Month. When did you realize you were gay?
So I realized early on, I think, I was probably around grade 4 or 5. So,
wow.
Like 10 or 11. I was also very alert to the fact that this was not something to share back then. So you internalize it and you hold it in. And I remember when I had the first conversation with anybody, it was in high school, and I was terrified of that conversation. And
so interesting. I mean, because you're, I think, about 20 years younger than I am. And, I was definitely scared. So it's interesting that, even, 20 years later, you were still.
No. So I can, it was a grade 4 or 5. That would have been, the early mid 90s. No, I was just very alert that this was just different and that I wasn't going to share this. and I remember when I told my family, who they already knew, but they it was a very scary thing, and but no, nothing but love and support. And
that's what you need, and you go from there. We find our way having that. But it's still scary. It is still definitely.
No, for sure. No, I'm very grateful that I come from a family that supports supports unconditionally with love, however we are, and not everybody has that. So
well, and for you, we'll get to it later, but I think even that love, not that it was tested, but it was helped you, the love that you had helped you, when this situation happened to you. So, but let's go back to India. How long had you been planning to, that trip? Because I mean, that's a trip of a lifetime when you plan something as large as a trip to India.
Yeah. So the whole planning of it took probably from the point where the idea came into my head, probably about 6 to 8 months of just researching and booking flights and figuring out my itinerary. I was doing this on my own, so I wanted to be as prepared as I could.
I was going to ask you, but I think you sort of, by being an only child, I would say then that the trip wasn't as intimidating going alone, was it?
No. So I think, and I already knew from previous travel experiences, my dad's British. He's from England. So I've spent many a summer over in England on my own, staying with relatives, and then going off to different countries. So I'd experienced traveling.
Lucky you.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
that's a way to grow up.
I've been very fortunate in having opportunities like that. And it gave me the confidence that I could do this. But I don't think anybody is really prepared for what it's like when you step off the plane in India, what it's going to be like. It was an adventure. I'll tell you, it wasn't like the best exotic Marigold Hotel or Eat, Pray, Love. I
know Eat, Pray, Love plays a part in your book. I would love to get there. It's one of those places. Definitely.
It's beautiful. And it's interesting because it's set up very much like it is in the United States. Instead of states, there are provinces. And every province is very different. So like the dialect of the language is different. The vibrancy of the saris that the women wear are different. The spice and the food, and just different traditions. But the people are were hospitable and welcoming and, eager to assist me even if they were wrong. And they knew they were wrong, but they just wanted to help, and they would send me in the wrong direction.
Oh no, that's awful.
And then it would just become a mess. But it was great.
That's wild. I love when you talk about the trip in your book, and traveling to the different provinces, and you would run into somebody you met in a different province. It's kind of a neat little benefit of traveling on your own and then coming across somebody again.
It's crazy in a country with millions and millions of people, and then you run into people that you met like 2 weeks ago. It's bizarre. The craziest thing. But travelers in that country generally do the same routes. So
same. You want to see the same places, right? Yeah.
So I've heard from other people that that's not so uncommon, but it was definitely a surprise.
Pleasant one, right? Yeah. It's a pleasant one. So talk about that moment on the Ganges River when you knew what you wanted to do when you returned home.
Yeah, so I had taken up the sport of paddleboarding, and for those who are listening who don't know what paddleboarding is, it's basically surfing with a paddle. And I took it up as a hobby. And
I never heard it described that way, but that's interesting. Makes sense. Surfing with a paddle.
Yeah. So and it's usually done on flat water. And it's relaxing and healing and fun. I was terrible when I started. I think my first lesson I spent 40 of the 60 minutes in the water, and then just over time you get better. Like, you practice things and skills are acquired, and it builds. And then I went off to India. I had my eat, pray, love moment. My love life was kind of imploding, and I decided, I need this, and I went off and I did it, and it was there that, I was standing at the Ganges River, which is, one of the holiest cities in the world. And I saw all of these beautiful lotus flowers with candles in them on the river, and they were just kind of lighting up the river, and it was beautiful. A lot of beauty in a place of a lot of sadness, because Varanasi, the city where I was in, is where people bring their loved ones to bury them, to say goodbye.
Spread their ashes, really, right?
Yeah. So while I was there, it was very emotional. I was watching a lot of cremations. It was really tough. And I was watching people weep and get really emotional. And but I was down by the river, and I saw all of these beautiful lotus flowers lighting up the water, and it was just like this light bulb moment went off, and I thought, I want people to light up the water. I want to create something, an experience, and I want the lotus flowers to be paddleboards, and I want people to be the candles, and I want them to shine. And
I love that you had, standing there, had that vision.
Yeah, no, it was, I just felt a calling to it. And it was kind of the first time that I'd really experienced the voice say, you need to do this.
In your book, I could feel, the passion come through those pages.
Thank you. I think, we all have light bulb moments where, the noise just goes away and we're brought into something, and we're, we're put on a path that Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots. You can't connect the dots going forwards. You can only connect them going backwards. And that led me to on a completely new trajectory. And then I came home and built up this amazing thing. Yeah, no, it was a really beautiful experience.
Yeah, I mean, you built an incredible business, and reading how you did it, and all of that. I'd love to know, because I know from reading the book and reading about you and listening to you, the passion. So there you are standing at the water. What was the water called in Canada? Down. What are you?
Like Ontario?
No, yeah, but there's another name for the area, right? Isn't there Cherry or something?
Cherry Beach.
Cherry Beach. Yes, Cherry Beach. Thank you. You standing on Cherry Beach, looking at the people you taught, standing up. What was that? How did that feel? When your business was off the ground and getting to see your students.
So I think one of the biggest things that I took pride in was watching people grow. So, the first time that I ever took a lesson, I was just thrown into the water and it was a mess. So when I designed what I created, I knew that I was going to do lessons on land so that people would be prepared when they went into the water. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was going to go over the anatomy of all the equipment, the safety information, how we're going, how to get up while you're on the sand before when you're out on the water, and set them up for success. I saw so many people show up incredibly nervous and anxious about falling, which is interesting because falling is, the most fun.
That's funny. Because I've done it a few times. My brother-in-law and my sister love to do it, but I don't know that I look at it. I guess people just get nervous of falling off what is supposed to be like their safety net.
Yeah. But you're attached to it. So if you can swim, you're good. But people were very nervous and anxious. And from the moment that they showed up and there were handshakes, nice to meet you, to the very end, I got to watch their skills develop to the point where all of their nerves and anxieties would disappear. So you have your most balance when the paddle is in the water. And so I'd always say, keep your paddle in the water. Don't put it on the board and just hold it there and stand, but keep paddling and just do, little strokes. And by the end of the lesson, I would place them in front of the skyline on their boards, and I would kind of command them like a drill sergeant, paddles up, and I'd tell them to put their paddles up in the air. And it was like a gladiator pose, and with the backdrop.
Is this what you told them?
Sorry?
Is this what you told them?
I told them paddles up, yeah. And you have the beautiful skyline. We had planes landing over us, and I became photographer, and I would send them home with beautiful pictures. And it was great because it was a moment that celebrated their power and their confidence. And it was really a moment for them, but it was also something for me because I got to do it.
That's a huge thing. I mean, you gave them that power and that confidence.
it was really, really a special time in my life.
Well, and you met a lot of other business owners, other paddleboarding business owners, and I think your first or second year, you were heading out to California to visit one of them, right?
Yeah, no. So
And you arrived at the airport.
Yeah.
And who did you see?
We met Will Horton from Days of Our Lives.
You just spotted him?
So he was getting off a flight from India.
Oh wow.
And he was standing out. So I went outside to catch an Uber. And so this is the second Will Horton. So Guy Wilson. And he was standing outside just waiting for somebody, and I was just standing kind of beside him, and I looked over and I recognized him, and I said, I know you. And and he said, yeah, and I said, you're Will Horton. And then we just started talking, and I said, where are you coming from? And he told me that he was in India, and then I told him about that I was in India, and we were just talking about India, and we just had a really nice conversation, and just a really nice guy.
Who introduced you to Days of Our Lives?
So I think I just stumbled upon it one day when I was in high school. And this was back when Princess Gina and Greta and Austin and Sam, like the Kristen was going all crazy and stuff, and back in the 90s, and things were wild. It was wild. It still is wild, but it was really wild back then.
Yeah, they all had more money back then, so they could be more wild.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love those small world, just like you being in India and going off to a different province and bumping into the girl, and here you are at the airport, and boom, it's those little moments that
moments, just little run-ins that
I was talking about that because New York City for me is like that. I'll walk down the street and I bump into friends or a celebrity. Just it's very, I keep my eyes open, and I've missed that because of the pandemic and not being in the city during this time. But those moments are special. Like you'll remember meeting him at the airport.
No, I remember when I wrote Crash and Rise. I kept in touch with Guy.
That's amazing.
And I contacted him and I said, I've got this book coming out. Would you mind reading an advanced reader copy? And he said, I'd love to read it. And he remembered exactly who I was.
Oh, that's awesome.
In our conversation. And he wrote a review it's published inside the book.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, he's it just, people are people. It doesn't matter, if you're on a show or if you're a musician.
People are people. We're all human,
We're all human.
100%. Yeah. Well, let's, I mean, we have to because it's part of your story. But so shortly upon your return, you weren't feeling well, right?
Yeah.
From that trip, and you took yourself to a walk-in clinic.
Yeah.
What did you say to them? What did they do for you?
So they said, so I was in excruciating pain.
Was that in your ear, right?
In my ear. Imagine like the worst tooth pain. It was like that, but in my ear.
It's I don't know your excruciating pain, but when I was in first grade, I had to have tubes put in my ear, and the pain of that I remember to this day. I don't know if it's anything similar, but when you're in first grade.
Yeah. No, I imagine as a kid that must have been very traumatic. So no, no, I went, and when you go to see a physician, you just think that you're going there and you're gonna feel better on the other
Yeah.
side of it, and that didn't happen.
Did
So
you hesitate, Mike? I mean, you were in excruciating pain. Did you? But some people just wait. Some people,
no, this needed to be this
yeah.
needed
Okay, good.
right,
I
right.
think that's important, really, to say out loud for other people watching. It is
Yeah,
important when your body's telling you something
yeah,
to go.
to go. Yeah, don't hold. Trust what your body's telling you, because it's you know
It's
your body.
truth.
Yeah, it is true. So unfortunately, one of the questions that was asked of me was, what have you been up to lately? And I said, oh, I was just in California surfing and paddleboarding. And they said, oh, you must have a dirty water in the ear infection. And then, of course, when you say stuff like that, it goes in your medical chart, right? And then you get sent home, and then a couple days later, symptoms are progressing, and your face collapse, and you can't walk, and you're throwing up all the time, and the dizziness, and all of that. And I went to 3 different hospitals after that, over a period of 5 days after that walk-in, and
Three
and
different hospitals,
3 different hospitals.
and the third hospital is
Third hospital finally did tests. They did blood work, they did CT scan, and they said, your chicken pox from when you were a kid has reactivated as shingles. And when shingles attacks your ear, and my ear was black at this point, and my face had dropped, and I couldn't walk. Like, I was holding on to people to help me walk. And I was very weak and tired and exhausted. And 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 um, and they said, yeah, when it attacks your eye or your ear, it's called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. It's rare. It's a neurological condition. You've missed.
it is rare, and it attacks your ear and your eye.
It can attack your ear or your eye.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, in many ways, although it was excruciating, it is said to, and everybody's pain tolerance is different. But this is something else. It's been described to be as painful as having, if you can imagine what both of your kneecaps being shattered at the same time,
Oof.
and that pain carrying with you for months and months. It's that's what it's like.
And so at that third hospital, and they told you it was Ramsay Hunt, did you ask, right, like, what is that?
Yeah, I think I was, at that point, at that point, my independence was gone. So my parents, who were now having to jump in and take over, they were asking, and I was out of it.
Wow.
Um, Also, I was, given a very, I was given medication for that was giving me an allergic reaction for something else. So I was on an IV. So when all of this was being said to me, what I heard was, "We're going to take the IV out." And you're going to stop throwing up, and things are going to get better. But things didn't get better. But no, I do remember him saying, what do you do for work? And I said, well, I'm a professional paddleboarder. And he said, oh boy. So it was not it was not a happy conversation. And then,
I can 100% understand that. And, I'm so sorry, that.
no, I think, I think it didn't set in right away. I was being told things like, we're going to start you on steroids and see how this goes. We're going to send you for an MRI to rule out brain damage. I was too exhausted. Like, that all went over my head. It was being said to me, but it was just going through me.
Yeah. And when you're in that kind of pain, I don't think your brain registers anything.
No. And it was just I don't think it really started to, this happened on Armistice Day, really, of that year, like November 11th. And I don't think it really, really sunk in the severity of everything until a few weeks later, until, I realized that my business was gone, my social life was gone, my independence was gone. And it was a completely new life. And yeah, very, very new life.
Very new life, very difficult for anyone to hear that, especially, you were 35 at the time.
Yeah, no.
Right?
Yeah. It was very hard, especially as a gay man.
I know. I felt that, reading your words, Mike. I mean,
yeah. Looking at myself in the mirror, my face has regenerated considerably in the last 2.5 years. There were moments where I was looking to have facial nerve transfers where they would cut open my face and take nerves from my leg and put them in my face, kind of like Face Off in the movie. And like there was a desperation. And ultimately, here we are 2 years later, and there's been a lot of self-love and healing, and I'm now an advocate and an ambassador for a craniofacial society, like a national organization. So,
but it took work for you to get to this place.
There's been a lot of work, but there were moments where I couldn't look in the mirror, and I thought, who is ever going to look somebody with a collapsed face.
You had some very dark moments.
Yeah.
And you talk about them in the book, and you had the love of mom and dad, which was incredible.
Yeah. No, they were my rocks. They were, my social life went from this to this. And it was, when something catastrophic happens to somebody, it doesn't just affect them, it affects all the people around them. So there were things that were being done. My mom was having to look after me. Both of my parents worked, or work. So my mom would, have me for 10 days, but like she'd still go to work, and then she'd come home, and then the next 10 days I'd go and stay at my dad's, to give her a bit of a break. But she was also working overtime so that she could make money in that 10-day period that I was at my dad's, for extra income, so that she could support me. And it was just, I think it affected everybody. And
I'm sure it made you stronger in a lot of ways too, all of you.
Yeah, no, I think it has taught that we are stronger when we come together than when we are apart. and we are resilient,
It's a
and
great message. We are stronger. Wasn't that
through,
Hillary's message? Stronger together.
yeah, we can get through tough things.
Did you go when the doctor gives you this diagnosis? Did you go in search of finding other people who had Ramsay Hunt to learn more, to bond with?
Yeah. So initially, I didn't. I talk about it in the book in Crash and Rise that we are our own biggest advocates, and nobody is going to fight harder for us than us. And one of the tools that I used was, I went in search of things. I researched the condition heavily. I joined support groups. I researched who else had this condition, and I tried to normalize it because it was so not normal and scary. And I wanted to put a familiar face on it so that I didn't feel so alone in what I was going through. So I literally pulled out the iPad and Googled famous people in my condition, and some people popped up, some politicians, which I thought were boring, and then the founder of P90X, the fitness guru, Tony Horton. Will Horton, Tony Horton.
All in the family.
Yeah. And I was in a very vulnerable state. Mentally, I was thinking that this might be my last winter. This might be my last Christmas. And but I thought, no, I'll send him a message, and I'll just see. And I did my research, and I already knew the name. I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. The kind of Jane Fonda like videos. We're gonna go from 0 to 100. Mm-hmm. And I spent so much time like crafting this message and telling him like a little bit about me, and saying what I liked about him, and what I'd read about him, and I saw the article of what happened to him, and it would I'd really appreciate any thoughts or any words, and he wrote back pretty quickly, and he has just become this kind of light in my life, this motivational, encouraging force. So I talk about that in diaries.
I love that. I love that he responded. I love that he's been able to help you. I was going to ask, you did take yourself to the doctor right away. Is there anything you think, for anybody watching, is there something you might have been able to do different, or you'd recommend if somebody was watching in the same, having pain, or, in any situation? I'm just curious if there's something you would say to somebody today.
Yeah. So I think we know our bodies very well. I know how my body reacts in the morning. I know how it reacts, after I eat a meal, after I go for a run, after, I know how it operates. And if if we see patterns change, something's going on. And even if it's just a little change, I think it's worth, your health is everything. And if you don't have your health, you don't have anything.
Yeah, it's true.
So
well, you
It's worth
Yeah, go ahead.
it's worth just keeping on top of, how your body responds to things, and if there are changes. I saw my mom recently. I saw her, and her eye was really bloodshot, and I said, "Oh my God!" Like, it was shocking. It was shocking. And I said, it looks like it's burst. It looked a little bit horror movie-ish. And she did. She went to a walk-in clinic, and she looked at it, and they said, yeah, it's that particular thing, that comes from just like a big cough or a big sneeze, and it can burst. But just that being told by, it didn't. If it was something more serious, then nip it in the bud while you can, before in my case, it led to me having to retrain my brain how to walk again.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I watched The View with Whoopi Goldberg, and she had like pneumonia for a long time, and she basically just said like the same thing you just said: listen to your body. And I have, from because I didn't always call right away, but I do now, to be sure. You talk about in the book that your life became about days of our lives.
I knew we were going to go
here. So you, truthfully, which I think, soaps do this for millions of people. Was that help? Was that something you used for comfort?
Yeah. So it wasn't. So I talk about days in the book. I didn't talk in the book about Young and the Restless, which I also am a big fan of.
So you flip networks. Not a lot of people. There's a mix. I was always a CBS boy, so I was on one.
Well, it was interesting. Like, in high school, so like, I'll say this, and it's probably going to come back to haunt me, but like, I was into Passions, like, big time.
Nice.
And days, but as my tastes as I have evolved, the writing at Y&R has taken me in. But
Y&R is a great show. Do you know Dr. Do you know Liz Sanborn from Passions?
Yes.
She's a friend of mine. She was on Guiding Light. She's a great lady.
Yeah.
Amelia Marshall.
Yeah. No, I think soaps did provide a lot of comfort to me when it was escapism from the reality that I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an hour of entertainment. At that point, I was sleeping a lot. Exhaustion is a huge part of this. When I turn my head from side to side still, I get very dizzy. It's like a carousel in my head.
Wow.
But back then, it was exhausting. I needed naps every other hour. So when I was awake, I just wanted to not be in my current situation. And I felt like being with John and Marlena and Jack and Jennifer. I was in a good place.
Well, that's good. Well, this young woman wanted to say hello to you.
Hey, Mike. Oh my gosh. I wish this could be in person. You are an inspiration, and just an honor just to be able to say hello. Your story has inspired me, and I'm sure inspired many, many more. God bless you, and I hope to someday give you a great big hug. You're the best, Mike. Keep the paddles up.
Amazing.
Adrienne Judy Evans.
Yeah, amazing. Oh my gosh, I could cry. That was beautiful. That was just so.
She's a great lady, and
Yeah.
she had COVID earlier this year. She had fallen off her horse, so I was thinking, you both have persevered.
Yeah, no, I've read about what she's gone through, and that was really kind. So thank you, Judy Evans, and thank
So,
you.
not even a year ago, right? I mean, August of 2020, you entered the Speaker Slam Inspirational Competition.
I did. So,
and a friend suggested this to you, right?
Yeah. So I kind of went to visit her, and she was one of my mentors. Like Tony Horn's become like a mentor like figure, and my friend Patrice, and I went to visit her at work, and I was using a cane to walk. I had an eye patch on. I looked like, the Penguin from Batman and Two-Face combined, like a hybrid. And I was walking very slowly, and I walked into her office, and she just said, you're not done. Like, what are we gonna do with you? You're not done. And I thought, like, are you drinking? Like, it's 10:30 in the morning. Have you seen this? And she said, I'm gonna send you some information. And I think that there is something you need to do. And she sent me this information for Speaker Slam, which is North America's largest inspirational speaking competition. And it's for motivational speakers and TED Talk speakers, and to go and share a story with a universal message. And I thought, okay, well, I'll send that off. And I didn't really think too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out that they said yes, and they wanted me, and I was like, crap, like, what am I gonna do?
Isn't that the worst? You think, oh,
So then I started doing my research, and I'm like, oh, these are people who've gone like millions of views on Goldcast and Jay Shetty and Power of Positivity, but I thought, okay, well, I'm deep in this recovery. All I have is time. All these people who I'm going to be, doing this with, like, they have full-time jobs, and I'm at home, and I can write. And writing is a big part of giving speeches.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always loved writing. And,
I was curious about that because of the book. So that's good.
That's good. Yeah. So, like in high school, I think, we needed 4 required English credits to graduate. I think I had 9. English was always my favorite. It was just something a subject, right. I was always interested in linguistics and flow. And so that came very naturally. And what I wanted to do was tell the story, but in a way that it was universal and applicable to everyone who was struggling, whether it was with a condition or, like, whether it was, somebody who had multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's or.
But you got that yes. Did you hesitate first?
No, I was very excited initially when I got that email. But also I was scared.
Yeah. I'd be scared in a normal day, not with your, having Ramsay Hunt. I mean, you would be, you might be excited, but you still would be nervous, I would think.
No, I was very, I was going to be on stage under bright lights, in a big venue with hundreds of people, and lights really affect me. So I was very aware of that, and also I was very aware that I was going to be on a stage and I could possibly fall off of it. And that I would probably need a stool or a chair, and that I would probably need to use that as a support to get me through the 6 minutes.
But that prop worked well.
It did. I used it several times in it.
There's a link on the YouTube page for anybody who wants to watch it. And I encourage you all to watch it because it is incredibly inspiring.
Well, thank you. No, it was the first time that I gave a really terrible speech in college. I was valedictorian, and it was a bad speech. This was my redo, my opportunity to come back from that.
Well, you could tell you put everything into it. I know you rehearsed a lot.
A lot. Yeah, it became my job. And no, my goal was to uplift a few in an audience of hundreds. And I never expected what happened next. Like it's crazy what's happened. The movement that it birthed, the millions of you, like it's nuts.
It's great though. You deserve all of that. How did the book, come to be?
So it happened very quickly, through, in the early process of, the diagnosis and the early days of recovery, writing was not, happening. Around 6 months later, the mind shift started happening. I started, and there are, there's something that led to that, and that's in the book. But practices started being made, like mindfulness activities, journaling. And I started writing down things like a diary, and keeping track of events and lessons learned from those events.
Now, did you do that because getting help for where you were mentally at the time encouraged you to write and journal? Is that part of like a healing process?
Yeah, no, I felt it was encouraged as a healthy outlet, and it was incredibly cathartic and healing, putting things down onto paper and writing. And I started documenting a little bit of it online and sharing a little bit of what I was going through on Facebook, on Instagram. And the response was, wow, you're a great writer. And I'm also seeing myself in this situation that is completely different than what they were going through. So I thought, okay. And that also gave me the confidence that I could do this speech, that I was getting, some positive feedback.
Yeah. Well, you are. I mean, because that's what because the book is a short but powerful read. And I feel like you are able to, in that read, articulate all of what is happening in just a powerful way. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe in my head I would think that the story would be longer, but it's the way and I know you do thank like your editors and stuff, but I wonder like it's a perfect
Thank you. No, so
it's a perfect journey that you take us on.
So I think paddleboarding is a backdrop in the story. Every story has a every story has a backdrop. For me, it was an illness and paddleboarding scenery. And those are central characters, just like in Sex and the City. You've got New York as a character.
100%. It's the fifth lady, we always say.
So no, it was just an opportunity. It gave me the opportunity to write and to put something together that people would enjoy. It was actually written with the idea of I've got it right here. Like it's short and powerful, but it's
it really is.
It was designed as a beach read, something that people would take to the beach. And
smart man.
And like when I go on vacation, I don't want to bring like a big thing that I have to commit to. I want something fun that's going to make me laugh and make me think and make me cry and something that I can read and put down and go in the ocean and then come back and pick up and carry on. And I wanted to create that.
You did. Bravo. That's amazing. So talk about today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a little bit tired right now. I'm in the middle of several projects.
One of them, I know you're raising money, right? For USA to Canada paddle.
Yeah. So I became a mental health advocate as a result of my journey, and I'm involved in a national organization. Last year, I held my second event, and it became an annual fundraiser.
And is the organization USA Paddle or?
No, it's called jack.org, and it's for youth mental health.
Oh, wow.
For programs and services. And
is this it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And they train to empower youth they train and empower youth to go into their communities and educate and talk about mental health. And what really struck a chord with me was youth are our future. And if you can get kids talking about mental health and normalize it, they won't be in the crisis that my generation is, and that generations ahead,
for sure,
older than me are in.
100%. Question, because I don't know Canada well, is mental health as much not talked about as it is here in the United States?
I think.
Do you know?
I think, like we have specific days. In a couple of days, we've got Mental Health Awareness Month starting here. So, you'll see it on TV. You'll see it, in the papers, different advocates, different organizations doing things. But still, there's a lot of stigma. I've been published in national papers talking about, reducing the stigma with, Suicide Prevention Month and topics that are, a little bit taboo.
Yeah, I used to do work with the Trevor Project.
I'm sorry?
I used to do work with the Trevor Project.
Amazing.
I was a volunteer, a lifeline counselor here in New York.
No, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, it's needed. We do need to talk about it, and it's not just it's not even just mental health as a diagnosis.
No.
It's just you and I here having a conversation just educates all of us about whatever that topic is, and helps people understand. I mean, you just somebody just learned today watching about Ramsay Hunt who may not, and you truthfully might have just saved somebody's life by that conversation or by putting up mentioning jack.org for somebody who, it's those conversations in any form that I think help.
Yeah, I think, a lot, when we're going through something that's physical, there is often a mental component to it. And I didn't realize, I was so focused in how I was feeling physically that I didn't recognize, I wasn't cognizant to the fact that this was going to affect me. This was going to affect me on a physical, emotional, and mental level.
Yeah, for sure.
And where that would take me, how dark it would get. But no, I'm grateful that I'm here, and this summer I have the opportunity to do something big, and I'm going to be the first person with a disability to cross international waters from one country to another, and I'll be paddleboarding, raising money and awareness for mental health from the USA to Canada.
That's what because the USA Paddle to Canada is?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'm going from Rochester, New York, to Toronto, with 2 security boats around me. Red Bull is going to be on one. We're trying to get Canadian Geographic to be on the other.
And will it be paddleboarding?
Yes. So I'm gonna, I can do it. I can stand up for short periods.
Bravo, Mike. Bravo.
I'm going to do a lot of it sitting down. I'm going to do a lot of it in the dark. I'm probably going to have some big naps out there. Like, the goal of it isn't to finish it in a certain time. The goal is just to finish.
Correct. Yeah.
And
that is an amazing accomplishment. No matter
if it takes me 3 days, it takes me 3 days. If it takes me 4 days, it takes me 4 days. But it will be finished. And I hope it breaks people's illusions of what we are capable of, or what people who have disabilities, what they're capable of accomplishing, and also reminding other people that they can do big things and they can change the world as well.
Bravo.
Thank you.
When is it? What's the date?
It's August. Well, all the excitement starts August 22nd. I'll be having my epic breakdowns. You can catch them. You'll be able to catch them on TikTok, I'm sure, on probably August 23rd.
And what does it entail to get you prepared for this?
So right now I'm working with a company called IndoBoard. And they've got balance testing devices. So I do a lot of at-home exercises. There's also a lot of walking.
To strengthen, is it to strengthen your legs?
Yeah.
And build your balance back up, I assume.
I'm doing a lot of at-home workouts. I have to be very careful because I still live with a neurological condition. So like when I move my head from side to side, I get dizzy. So running is kind of out of it for me. But I do go for walks, like really long walks, like 2 hours a day.
That's amazing. Is Ramsay Hunt, the diagnosis, a neurological disorder?
Yeah.
That's
neurological condition. Yeah. And then, I've started getting on the water, training in short increments and building it up. And as, the weather here is very similar to where you are in New Jersey. So it's kind of, water season's coming. So I'll be on the water, all summer preparing for the big finale.
Bravo. Really amazing. I wish you Godspeed on that. I think You really are inspiring. Stay strong. I'm glad Andrea introduced us.
Me as well. Me also.
A pleasure to talk to you. Everybody, please pick up his book, Crash and Rise, From Victim to Thriving Survivor. It's an amazing read. It will inspire you. And don't forget to watch the Speaker Slam video, because that is something to see. I made sure my sisters, like I said, her and her husband are big paddleboarders, and I wanted them to listen to you.
No.
Yeah, they're retired. Well, no, he's retired, but they do it quite often.
No, it's a great thing to do for relaxation and just it's
it must be exciting to you.
It's not what it was for me,
right?
But that doesn't mean that it's gone, and it doesn't mean that it's not just as good, but in a different way.
But this August event must be truly an exciting thing that you're looking forward to.
No, very much so. Yeah.
No, I bet you're gonna have,
Don't tell me I'll never paddleboard again. I'll show you. I'll show you.
I'll show all of you.
I'll go from one country to another.
150%.
Yeah.
Mike.
No, it was a pleasure. It was really nice sitting down with you.
So nice to meet you. You stay well. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, Mike. Bye. Thanks so much for joining today, everybody. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so right below. Turn on the notifications to be reminded of all upcoming shows. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.